welcome to the third edition of Classroom Blueprints. We are excited to have you here with us today. Our focus today is going to be on Conexiones. We're going in the middle school realm of dual language, and we are excited to have a large group of people to join us today. I'm going to try and go through the list real quick, and then I'm going to give the in-person participants of our panel the opportunity to introduce themselves and help you understand what their backgrounds are. So today we have Adriana Rueda, who is a Conexionist teacher. I'll let her say more about that in a few moments. We also have Freddy Parra, another Conexionist teacher, to join us today, as well as Jason Strauss, who works with Participate Learning in leading the Conexiones project and in providing professional development and support for Conexiones. And adding to our incredible in-person panel today, we have some special guests, and they are the dual language middle school team from Buncombe County Schools, the project led by Dr. Sherry Boone, who will join us shortly via video, as well as Mr. Alexander, who is a principal, Mr. Wheelis and Mr. Bright, principals as well. And then two additional teachers, Ms. Tejada and Ms. Camacho, all from Buncombe County Schools, early adopters of the Conexiones program. So we're excited to have everyone to join us today. And without further ado, we're going to get started by introducing our in-person panel. So Adriana, we will yield the floor to you and give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit about your background.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you. Well, as you were saying, my name is Adriana Rueda. I'm from Colombia. This is my 5th year here teaching Conexiones, and it's the second time I'm here with Participate, and I'm just loving the program. And I have a lot of experience teaching in bilingual programs, and I think that so far this is one of the best programs I have the opportunity to use and teach.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Freddy, it's your turn.
Well, let me say this. Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity to just interact. I think is very good for us as teachers to say our points of view. I'm Freddy Parra from Colombia too. This is my 5th year. I'm middle school teacher with this program in Harnett County, North Carolina. And I just love this program. It's very, it's a nice opportunity for us as teachers and also for our students.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Freddy and Adriana. And I'm going to have Jason talk a little bit about his work with Conexiones.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here today, Kevin. It's an honor to be here with you all and with all of our guests. I have been a language teacher for about 8 years. I'd spent 2 years in Spain as a language teacher, and I've been working now with Participate Learning for a couple years. My role with Conexiones is providing professional development and much more.
So Jason, I'm going to give you the opportunity to define what it is, what the broader goals are for Conexiones, and just help the broader community out there of dual language educators across the nation to create an idea of what Conexiones is for us.
Absolutely. So Conexiones, the goal of Conexiones is to create bilingual global citizens. And this program was made specifically for students who graduate from dual language programs and from kindergarten to 5th grade, elementary programs, as well as heritage speakers of the Spanish language. And so it's a program for both of those. And the learning objectives of the program are to improve global citizenship, to create global citizens, but also to improve language proficiency. So it's proficiency-based instruction, but we also teach grammar. We're intentional about teaching grammar through context. In the global citizenship part, we also have global competencies that students use to measure themselves as they strive to become a global citizen. And we also have projects based around the Sustainable Development Goals that were created by the United Nations in 2015 to create a more economically sustainable world by 2030. And so students do projects around these goals and interact with their community, with outside communities, with other students from Spanish-speaking countries as they become bilingual global citizens.
All right, that frames it for us. And at this juncture, what I'm going to do is also have Dr. Sherry Boone, who we spoke to earlier, to come into the conversation and talk to us a little bit about the articulation and the vision for Conexiones for Buncombe County Schools.
Thank you, Kevin, for having us represent Buncombe County Schools and the Conexionis program. And, you know, even though I perhaps maybe represent the district, it's everyone here that's on this Zoom, and Mr. Bright and Mr. Wheelis, the principal at AC Reynolds Middle School, and our central office leadership. If it weren't for our superintendent's global initiatives, none of this would actually be here. But the work, the important work that happens day in and day out is due to the folks that's on this screen. It's the administrative leadership, and then the work, the teacher leadership that happens with Marta and Ediphilia 5 days a week, probably 7 days a week, because I know that they work more than just Monday through Friday, but it's that work that makes this program successful. You mentioned bridging the gap, and I heard those terms from several in our conversation, and that's truly how this came to be. Several years ago, I talked with Mark Otter at Participate Learning, and probably you, Kevin, early on, as to how do we continue growing the program and keep the connection of language alive, academic language alive for our students who would be post-immersion. We heard loud and clear at one of our schools, actually it was Mr. Bright's school, and it might have been prior to him being a principal there, that they wanted us to continue offering a course that provided their children continued academic language opportunity to bridge this particular gap between the immersion experience, K-5, and then before they go off to the high school with your traditional world language courses. And so going to Participate in general, we said, how can you help us? And he presented Conexiones. I think that was growing very successfully in another county. And when he presented this progression and this bridge, it was Conexiones 1, 2, and 3. And we said that was the answer for Buncombe County Schools. And so we shared that with the principals at the time. We really tried to figure out how it fit in the landscape of Buncombe County Schools and world languages, and the difficult master scheduling that happens, as you heard, at the intermediate and middle school level. And so that particular course really was the marriage between the elementary and the high school. And it's turned out our first implementation year was, I think, 2018, 2019, and it has proven to be very successful. You know, I can talk the language of the Apple assessment and credit by demonstrated mastery. A lot of successes coming out of the work that was foundational K-5 and dual language, but continued on through Conexiones.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Boone, for your insight. So let's start to unpack this and hear from some of our Conexiones teachers. Let's begin with you, Adriana. You've been teaching Conexiones for a few years. How do you create opportunities for your middle school dual language students to advance in each of these areas that we just touched on?
Okay, thank you, Kevin. So yes, you're right. And the beauty of the program is that we have the opportunity to keep improving their language skills while students are becoming global citizens. The idea of the program is that we use the program as an excuse for them to deepen their skills, the listening and speaking, reading and writing, but at the same time, they are growing as human beings. So for example, grammar, we don't teach grammar per grammar. It's like we always teach grammar in context, as Jason was mentioning, and we use the grammar for communication purposes. It's not like they see, like sometimes it's hard to see the students learning grammar by completing worksheets that are not meaningful for them. But when they are in Conexiones, they see the meaning of grammar. They see the meaning of correct communication. Actually, this is one of the 10 global competencies, communication. So that part is like the whole thing, you know, like we try to put everything together. You were mentioning the PBL. We do a lot of project-based learning because every time we start from the beginning, like in each lesson, we start like building the vocabulary, and at the end of the lesson they are able to do a product. They can read, they can write, they can listen. So and using those SDGs also help them to analyze, and they are deeper thinkers. I think that's one of the most important things of the program.
Okay, Adriana, I'm going to throw a curveball to you, or at you. I'm going to say, when you first taught Conexiones, what were the difficult parts? Because this is moving away from teaching an advanced language course in a traditional format to teaching it in an integrated format with a high focus on global competencies. So what were some of those initial bumps that you experienced when you first came across Conexiones?
Well, probably getting to know the students, because you don't really know the level that they have, you know, and when you see the program, and you see the content, and you see the skills that we're trying to promote, you see, wow, this is going to be hard for them. So the very first, like, I was scared at the beginning, because when I saw the program, I say, well, are they going to be able to really keep up with what we are trying to do with them? So I probably, that was my first fear. But then you see that the program is really, really thought, like it has been meant to really continue what they were doing in elementary. And it's a little bit like Krashen says, the input plus one, you know, like it's a little bit harder, but it is not, you know, easy. So they are really building, because when they are experiencing something easier than they have been doing, they are not learning. If it is too hard, same thing. But the program is just a little bit harder for them to start building on their previous background knowledge.
So it takes an incremental approach to language development, all focused on that communication piece and the global competencies. Freddy, now your experience is a little different. You come from a background of teaching ESL first, and then now you're teaching Conexiones, and you have some special projects that you have done with your students that I want you to mention.
Well, it is very similar. What I'm doing is we are creating a new school newspaper. It doesn't look like something new, but it's kind of is. It is actually something new for them, because what we are doing is creating something in the language they are learning. And we have this other group of students correcting and giving advice to the language they already know. So what we are doing here, it's not just learning language, but also some values like listening skills, like asking politely different things. So they're interacting using the language they are learning. And it has been a really nice experience for me and for my students.
Let's go back to our friends from Buncombe County and hear about their implementation process, and also from your colleagues, Ms. Tejada, Ms. Camacho, on their the experiences that they've had with their students in the community by incorporating Conexiones in their intermediate and middle schools.
I'm Reggie Bright, the principal at Kuntz Intermediate. And we started, I guess, with Conexiones first. The way our school is set up, our dual language program officially ends in 5th grade. So it's kindergarten through 5th grade. And so the Conexiones was offered to those dual language students in 6th grade. We've had to offer it several different ways. I think the first year we offered it, it was during the student special area time. And we didn't have as much participation because students had to choose band, strings. So that was a smaller participation. So we worked it out to have it then during an intervention time for us, so that we could get more students to participate. We have an intervention and enrichment block that every kid has for ELA. So some kids may be getting, like I said, enrichment, gifted and talented kind of things, or it may be a time that kids are getting special education services. So for these kids, that's where we tried to build that into the schedule so that those kids could actually do that during that time. It's been a great program for us to, have the kids to continue to be able to speak and learn in Spanish. And I will just say what's really, it's a great program, but what really has made it a great program is Miss Tejada. And, she's built great relationships with the kids. I've only heard, great things from the parents. And when you talk with the kids, they're always excited to go to class. And then we also carved out time for her to be able to serve the Conexiones kids at Valley Springs. And that works well because we are on the same campus, and it literally is 5 minutes walk for Ms. Tejada to go and work with those students that she's had previously. So that's great, that continuity, that she knows the kids and continue that work.
Yeah, and here's where I'm going to insert a joke. You say 5 minutes down the road, not so fun when it's winter, I bet, but that's okay.
Well, there's an awning the entire way, so she won't get snow or rain on her.
Okay, now you're talking. All right, Mr. Alexander, tell us about your school.
Sure. So Valley Springs is the second school that I have been at that utilized the Conexiones program. Valley Springs is about 661 students. We are 51% minority population. And that means we have, I think it falls down to about 28 Hispanic students, about 18% African-American, a smattering of Ukrainian, Russian. And so it's a really wonderful thing. And all of those students from all of those backgrounds with such rich diversity have been a part of dual language and then have carried up into Conexiones here at the middle grades level. I will tell you, being a former foreign language teacher myself, before I went into administration, I think the Conexiones program is a fabulous bridge between that dual language immersion that they are getting all day at the elementary level, going into high school where you're going to be taking those Spanish credits. And I say all of that to say an aspect of the curriculum that I very much like is the embedment of the grammar that is in the curriculum. What we find as high school teachers, often in a foreign language classroom, is needing to know this is subjunctive, this is how you conjugate a verb. And so when Miss Tejada, who Mr. Bright mentioned, is shared between our two schools, when she can talk about that in the target language, in this case Spanish, and bring that out, that's a really wonderful thing. I also really like the autonomy that she has as the Conexiones teacher with the various modules, thematic units that exist in the curriculum. I do want to echo Mr. Bright's 2 points on the flexibility of the program, because you hit it well on the head, Mr. Smith. There is a lot of competition for students between foreign language, band, chorus, dual language. And so that flexibility is really terrific. And in turn, they love the program.
Well, I think you've hit several things on the head, Mr. Alexander, and I especially appreciate the comments coming from a former foreign language practitioner. I'm going to ask Jason to talk a little bit about the work that you do with these two wonderful teachers, Ms. Tejada and Ms. Camacho, and then we're going to, have them talk about their own experiences in guiding the students through Conexiones. So Jason, tell us a little bit about you and how you interact with them.
Yeah, thanks. So the work that I do with Edifilia and Marta, we meet in a virtual meeting setting at least once a month. Typically, though, recently it's been more like twice a month. We basically come together as an entire Conexiones community to discuss best practices. And really what I try to do is to bring resources to Conexiones teachers and to find out what kind of things are our Conexiones teachers doing that other Conexiones teachers could benefit from. And so I've asked Edifilia and Marta on multiple occasions to present to our Conexionis community in our virtual meetings. Another thing that we have is our online community of practice. So we have courses, resources, discussion threads, all of that lives on this platform. And Conexionis teachers are able to interact with each other on that platform and share resources and collaborate, continue the collaboration asynchronously, so to speak. So that's kind of been my role.
All right. Thank you so much, Jason, for that. Let's start with Ms. Camacho. Ms. Camacho, tell us about your experience with Conexiones. How long have you been teaching it? Who are your students right now? And maybe give us a couple examples of some exciting things that you've done with them.
Okay, I teach at AC Reynolds Middle. Right now we have Conexiones 1 and Conexiones 2. And this is my second year teaching Conexiones. And I have 15 students in each group. And I fell in love with this class as soon as I finished the first class. It is a content-based class, and it is based on two things that I loved. On the one hand, we have like the cultural awareness, and we also have social issues here with the Sustainable Development Goals. And basically the methodology of the class is to see how culture and social issues relates and interacts all time. So this is something that I love because I'm not teaching grammar just like providing my students structures, but I'm teaching them how to use that, how to give them a voice to tell the world what is happening in their own lives and in their own context. And that's what I love about this class. Last year, we had a Carnaval de Barranquilla. It was a boom here. Everybody loved it. And we peer with Livia de la Rosa. She is a former teacher at Oakley Elementary School. We peer together and we work on a Carnaval de Barranquilla presentation. We have a parade with costumes, traditional costumes from Colombia, and we perform two typical dances. I've also peered with Edefilia Tejada during some cultural activities in her school in Coons. We were there. We always try to work together because we are a community. Like as Jason said, it is not like I do something in my classroom and other teachers are doing different things. We know what all of us are doing in the classroom. We are a network and we work together to make our classes stronger.
Very good. That sounds very exciting. And I wish I had known about the Carnaval de Barranquilla. I would have been up there as well. So next time, please send an invitation out. Ms. Tejada, tell us about your experience.
I'm teaching Conexiones in Coons. This is my third year, and this is my first year with Conexiones. I'm sorry, Conexiones 1, and this is my first year with Conexiones 2 in Valley Springs. And I'm always saying that I'm in love with this program because as you mentioned, it's not only teaching grammar, but going further, like using the language to let them explore the word and let them express themselves. So like working with the citizen competencies, the sustainable development goals, and bringing this project to their own experience, to their lives. Like this is what makes this program amazing. I can say that the students are enjoying and are engaged. They participate and they love it. They love like attending the classes. They have learned and they have improved a lot. I mean, and you can see that when they come to the class and they participate and they are there. And I'm always like inviting people. One of the things that I love is that depending on the topic that we're talking, I'm inviting people from different parts of the world that I have. Sometimes my own family and friends, many times are my colleagues and my friends from Spain, from Colombia, wherever they are, and we are always like exchanging our experiences. So I expose these students to get in touch to my culture and to other cultures.
Thank you guys so much for spending a few minutes with me today talking about Conexiones. So thanks again. So back to you guys, Adriana and Freddie. Tell us a little bit about the student experience from your own classrooms, from your own experience.
Well, you were mentioning that one of the things about this program is that the students are given opportunities to use the language in real situations. And a couple of years ago, when we were here, you know that I forgot to mention at the beginning that I'm teaching in Wilmington. And, you know, here we have been hit by hurricanes and tornadoes and things like that. So a couple of years ago, when we have Florence and when we have Matthew, some of the kids that I was teaching, I was so surprised to see them because there were a lot of groups organizing, visiting to the Hispanic community to bring them food and everything, and they need lots of translators. So I saw my kids like volunteering, like nobody told them to do it. And it was like so heartbreaking to see them using the language for a purpose that has to do with what we are teaching them. Like when we talk about global competencies, it's not something, it's another discussion that is just in the classroom. And it's like, I think about this, and this is my opinion, but our intention is to make the students to take an action. So when you see them using Spanish to help other communities and to really like using their time to do that, it tells a lot of things about the program and how we are creating community.
Absolutely. I think that is so important. And a lot of times when we talk about building global competencies, people think that it's only about international, that you have to go somewhere to have an impact. And that is not quite right. You can build global competencies and sensitivity, cultural sensitivity among students, and have a local impact as well. So I appreciate that example that you shared with us. How about you, Freddie? What are some of the experiences that your students say they enjoy the most?
I was thinking something different when Adriana mentioned that the students are using Spanish in a real context. I just thought something that is going on right now in my classes, for example, in my school. As I said before, I'm also an ESL teacher. So we have a large group of newcomers coming to the school. So those students, they don't speak English at all. So you can imagine the hard time those kids are having in my classroom, understanding everything that is going on in a classroom, in a regular classroom. And what I'm doing with my Spanish students, I'm asking them to help those newcomers. So they have to communicate them in Spanish because they don't know English. So as you said, Adriana, they are using the language in a real context for a purpose. So right now they are helping others to understand what is going on in the school. And we all know speak English and we all know speak other languages, but I cannot imagine how hard it will be for a student to sit down for hours understanding nothing and having that kid next to them, helping them, understanding what he wants to, that's actually the best thing that can happen to that student. I want to mention something else. Conexiones helps to help kids travel somewhere, everywhere. Most of the students in my community, I think they're living here, they have been here the whole life. So they might know nothing about the outside world. So when we are in a class and when we study something in China, hunger in Africa, poverty in India, on those kind of different things, that's the reality that the students are getting. And that's also powerful because they know that the world goes beyond this class, this community, and that's something that only a program like Conexiones can give to those kids.
Awesome. Those are some powerful examples. And one additional important thing that schools are always looking at is okay, so I believe in global competencies. I see the value in all of that, but I want to make sure that we can continue to measure students' progress towards those benchmarks in language development. So what can you share with us around student outcomes that you think the broader community would relate to?
Well, I think that is important to measure because otherwise you don't know where you have to do the improvements. And one thing that we do in Conexiones is like, well, not in Conexiones, is in general in the dual language program, the students in 5th grade, they take an assessment that is called the Apple test. And one of the purposes of Conexiones is to keep that language because they move from being like 90-10 or 50-50 to only having like 50 minutes a day of Spanish. So one of the purposes of the class is to maintain that level of Spanish in our students. But surprisingly, and is awesome because I had the experience of students taking the Apple test and scoring better than they did in 5th grade. So not only maintaining the skills, but they are improving in all the skills. So that is amazing. Like I have my first group of graduates that took the test 2 years ago because last year, because of everything that happened, they were not able to take the test. But the first graduated, they exceed the first time they took the test. And so it tells a lot about the quality of the program.
And Jason, do you have some overall, because of course Adriana is referring to her program at the international school at Gregory. What are some of the general outcomes that all the Conexiones groups have seen in their Apple scores? We can hear you, Jason.
Knew that would happen to me once. Okay. So absolutely. So just like Adriana was talking about, students, take the Apple assessment in 5th grade and come in with a score, and then they take it again in 8th grade and leave with a score. But the Conexiones program actually actively measures students' language proficiency throughout the entire program. And it does that by, in each unit, there are 5 specific learning products that students need to complete. And each of those learning products is tied to a language proficiency skill that is measured in the Apple test. And so students then use a can-do statement, which is a statement that starts out with I can. And that statement helps them understand what level of proficiency they have and what they are trying to achieve with that specific learning product. So then at the end of each unit, they are asked to self-assess themselves and to look at the can-do statements that aligned with each of their learning products and to measure their language proficiency. So they are actively tracking their language proficiency throughout their career as a Conexiones student.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. It's great to hear that Conexiones is actually responding effectively to that opportunity of articulating the dual language program between elementary and high school. I am really happy to hear about your experiences with Conexiones. I'm ecstatic to hear about students' increased ability in their language skills, but even more so in their development as global citizens and becoming sensitive to cultural differences, to understanding their own culture, and to sharing with the local and global communities as they go through the course. It's all very powerful, and it shouldn't be limited really to just the dual language students. All students should really get access to courses like this. And so I want to thank you guys for spending a little bit of your time today in hearing from your experiences with Conexiones, helping us understand, Jason, what Conexiones is, and from our friends understanding the impact that Conexiones has on their communities. Any final thoughts from you guys before we go?
Thank you for inviting us. It's awesome when you are invited to talk about something that you love. So for me, it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for giving not just teachers, but all the community this opportunity to know this program and to know the great things that we are doing here right now, and everybody can actually implement in their schools. So thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. And to learn more about Conexiones, go to www, of course, participatelearning.com/programs, and you will get an email, a follow-up email with some additional information and sample unit for Conexiones. And if you ever have a question on how you can take advantage of Conexiones for your own school community, send us an email at partnerships@participatelearning.com. I want to thank all our guests today for sharing their thoughts and experiences with Conexiones, and we look forward to our next classroom blueprints. Thanks.